Welcome to Out of the Box, the creative industry podcast. I got that right third time, did I, Ollie?
Third time's the charm. That'll do.
That'll do, donkey.
So what are we here for today? Go on, Joe.
So episode 12 or episode 2, season 2.
Yeah.
And it is all about how to put a price on your creativity.
It's a good topic.
It is.
It's an interesting topic.
It is. It's a difficult topic, I find.
Yeah, I think talking about money, is quite difficult. And I think we've said before, haven't we, do we do a podcast that involves money? And we've sort of ummed and ahed because it's a bit weird and sometimes you don't like people to know about money. But I think this podcast is all about helping people either in our position or going to be in our position, things to expect, things to learn on. So this podcast isn't going to have all the answers that are like 100%. This is more our experience with how we have found dealing with money and what we charge and how we've worked over the last couple of years, and hopefully it maybe help somebody in a similar position. It doesn't mean we have all the answers or they're necessarily correct, but I think us sharing our experience with money in this industry is probably important, isn't it?
Yeah, I think us being vulnerable in ourselves when talking about it as well, because you know how much I hate money talk.
Yeah, especially you do really hate money talk.
If Mr. Krabs had an alter ego where he hated money, that would be me.
money.
But that is not that. Yeah, I'm not a fan, but it needs to be addressed because without it,
there's no such thing as a business.
Exactly.
Because we've made mistakes over the years, haven't we? So we've been running this business now. We're into our third year of the business. October will be into our fourth. Yeah. So it's we've had our fair share of trials and tribulations with making mistakes with monies and things with money and things like that, and lessons we've learned along the way. So I think this podcast is just for us to share what we've learned and any advice that we can sort of give if you're starting your business. Maybe you're at a point where you're starting to sell your work and you're thinking, how do I price my work? How do I say to somebody, for my services it costs this much, and feel comfortable and confident in that? Because it's a hard thing to do. It's a very, very hard thing to turn around and say, okay, it will cost you this much for me to do something for you. I think that's a really scary thing. It takes a lot of confidence. So yeah, this is just our advice, really.
It's a difficult one and know where to sort of start, isn't it? In this, like, how do you come up with like a figure, X figure that you start at, like a starting rate? And I think there's a few little pointers that we can advise on where to sort of find that initial figure from.
Yeah. Well, before we get into the numbers and charging, I think there's a very big question that I get asked quite a lot, and I'll see what you think about this. And the question simply is, should you ever work for free?
In short, the answer for me would be no.
Okay.
But that doesn't necessarily mean that you are working. It doesn't necessarily mean that you aren't like about money, like you're getting paid in money.
Well, before we go into it then, my answer would be yes.
Right, okay.
Okay, so you give me your argument and I'll give you mine.
So I don't think you should ever work for free because, I just don't think you should. However, if you were going to do work for someone and gaining an experience from it, then I think that is valuable, and therefore I wouldn't class as working for free because you're getting something out of it. Okay,
so you're saying at times it's okay if you're getting something out of it as well.
Yeah.
So I don't think you should work for free as a general rule, but I also think there are times when you should allow yourself to work for free. So one of the best examples I'll take from my personal experience is if you feel like you've got the ability to do something and you've got the ability to turn that into a business and you've got the ability to make money from it, but you need somebody to give you that initial chance. Maybe you want to get into live photography. You know you're going to be a very good live photographer, but maybe you don't have the equipment to charge for it yet, and you don't have the portfolio to go to a band and say, pay me money. You might approach a band and say, listen, I'm getting into it. I've got a camera. I'm getting there. I need to build my portfolio. I'll shoot your show for free. You go and hopefully you do a really, really good job. You do it for free and you turn around and say, thanks so much. Here's your photos. You got a show next month. If you want me then, it'll be 50 quid or 100 quid or whatever you charge. So I think if you need something from that job, like you've just said, to prove that you can charge money for it, whether that be experience or building your portfolio, I think it's okay to work for free once. So a good example for us, I knew that we could make a really good product commercial, but we had nothing in our portfolio and we didn't want to go to Asda and buy a can of Coke and make a Coke commercial. So we got in touch with a company called Northern Monk and we said, we want to offer you a free promotional video for one of your beers. Send us a couple of beers, we'll make you a video, give it you back, and that's it. Do with it what you please. They sent us a couple of beers, we made a promotional video. I was really happy with it for our first one. You were really happy with the first one. Up until that point, we had no proof that we could do that job.
Yep.
We did that for free. Sent them the video, they were really happy with it, and they said, oh, okay, great. We're actually interested in having another video made. How much will it be? And at that point, we said, it's X amount. So I think working for free got us then a relationship with a company that now we've worked with for 2 years.
Yeah.
If we hadn't worked for free, we would never have got it.
Yeah. So my answer marries very much up with yours.
Yeah.
Like,
we're both like yes and no's, really.
Yeah, because you're not even though it's you're working for free in the sense of you're not getting paid in money.
Yeah.
You're also gaining something from it yourself. So that means that technically you're not working for free because you're getting something out of it.
Yeah. But on the other hand, if say you've got like a really strong say if you're a photographer, you've got a really strong live portfolio of photos, and a band comes to you and says, "Oh, we're playing at the here, can you come and shoot?" Only thing is we've got no money. Will you do it for free? Oh, it's a really good venue. We're quite a big band. People might see your work. We'll share it and stuff. We do it for free. In my opinion, the answer there should be no.
Yeah. I would probably have to agree.
Because you've got your portfolio to back it up. You're not really getting anything out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And people always say, oh, do this for free and then the next time I'll there'll be loads of work for you. Do this one for free and there'll be loads of work for you. And next time I'll get you on this and next time I'll get you on that. For me, that's a no-go because it just never happens.
Yeah.
People say all kinds of stuff to get things for free and it's false promises at the end of the day.
Yeah, I think I'd have to agree unless it was like the 1975 asking you to come and photograph them at like their headline set at Reading.
Yeah.
Then obviously, but I suppose you'd still be getting something out of that, wouldn't you?
Yeah, you'd get the exposure, I suppose. But that word exposure is what people will use.
Yeah.
Oh, come and shoot my really big band, or come and film this promotional video for free. But I know loads of other gyms that need promotional videos. I'll get you 10 more jobs. Or do this one for £100.
Yeah.
And you'll get loads out of work out of it. No, because it just never happens.
I feel like with them type of people, you've got to have a sort of pessimistic mindset of, yeah, that's never going to happen.
Yeah.
Because if you're too optimistic, then you're only going to be let down. Because more often than not, things like that will end up ultimately letting you down.
Yeah. It is hard because people will like make you promises. Because how many times has someone said, oh, there'll be loads more times I'll need you. Do this one for cheap or for free, and then the next time. And we've fallen for it.
Yeah.
Like, simple as that, we've done jobs for next to nothing in the hope that we'll get more work out of it, and it just 9 times out of 10 it's just empty words to get a cheap deal out of you, really.
Yeah, definitely. So when you're initially thinking of that sort of cost that you want to put on your head, like your services, how do we get to the point of knowing what that number is?
What to charge someone?
Yeah, when you're first sort of starting out, say if you're starting out, like let's just stick with the gig photographer.
Okay.
How do I know what I should charge as a starting out sort of person that's shot a few people, that's done that free exposure, but has now got a decent little portfolio of shots, say maybe sort of like 2 or 3 gigs. They've got a camera that's a decent level. What sort of starting points? Where do we go to find this figure? Like how do we start?
I think if you're learning to know what to charge for your work, like in the creative industry, again, let's sit with the gig photographer. I think there's 2 main factors for me that I think you factor in: is equipment and experience.
Mm-hmm.
If you're working on little experience with a amateur to enthusiast to amateur camera, you're going to be on the lower side. If you're fairly experienced with like middle of the road equipment that's good, you're at the middle of the road pricing. If you've got tons of experience and you've got professional industry equipment, then you're on the higher bracket of things. I feel like there's three sort of ways to price, and I think it depends on your equipment and your experience. I'd say the main two pillars of what to charge.
Yeah, I feel like that's sort of, I mean, obviously we've stuck with the whole gig photographer, but I feel like that's a pretty consistent thing across the board, no matter whether you're a filmmaker, photographer, audio engineer. I feel like that's pretty consistent in a consistent way of thinking across businesses.
Because there's that age-old question of, does gear matter? And in my opinion, when it comes to money, like it does.
It does. Yeah, it does. Because I could easily record them on a whole band on a SM57.
Yeah.
And it would be completely different outcome to what it would be if I had a whole mic locker.
Yeah.
But
if you had a £400 camera, you can't be charging somebody who's got the same as somebody who's got a £3,000-4,000 camera. It just doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
In terms of we're looking at like the actual starting price of what to ask, I think you put yourself into one of those brackets, and I think you ask yourself, how much do you feel comfortable charging for? So there's been times where we've charged something and it may be a good deal for the person, but we're also happy with that cost. It represents how we feel within those brackets, experience and gear. I think you've just got to find the number that your client is comfortable with and that also you're comfortable with.
Yeah.
It is really hard because asking someone for money and asking someone to put money into your work is a difficult in itself, really.
Yeah.
Going from that then of where you set yourself in that experience versus equipment bracket, you have to look at what's around you as well. If the general market of a gig photographer is, let's just say it's £100 just for easy math. I'm not saying that's what people should charge, just £100. If you're going in at £500, but the general market is between 75 and 150, you're obviously pricing yourself out of the market. I think you got to look at what's around you and find again where you're comfortable within that market. Personally, middle of the road is always good. I don't think you should be the most expensive, but I think it's also dangerous to undercut people. I think if people see the average price of something at £100 and you're charging £30, £40, £50, I think it just sends the wrong message. I think you're saying that you value yourself less than everybody else. If you're comfortable, your equipment's there, your experience is there, and you think the general market, £75 to £150, I'm going to be at £120 because I'm confident, I'm happy with that price, and it fits the market so that my client is going to be happy with that price as well.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you start going, the only way I'm going to get work is by being the cheapest, I think you put yourself in a battle then. If you're charging £50 for a shoot, but the average is £100, you've got to do 2 shoots for every 1 shoot that the rest of the market has to do.
Yeah.
I saw something once that said if you charge 20% more and work 20% less, that obviously there's a limit to that. You can't just keep charging forever. But it also makes better value for your clients. If you need to make £1,000 a week and you charge £100 per shoot, that's 10 a month. Sorry, that's 10 clients. But if you're charging £50, you've got to do 20. So those 10 clients are getting 50% less of your attention. You're spreading yourself too thin because you're undercutting yourself.
Yeah, I think it's all about finding the balance, isn't it, within these type of things, and sort of seeing what you're comfortable with, but also maintaining the comfort of the client as well. Obviously, the client is obviously priority in what they want, but obviously you've got to get what you want at the same time. You've both got to get something out of it, and that's what creates that sort of.
And it's got to be sustainable.
Yeah,
it's got to be sustainable, because if you're undercutting and charging less and less to get more work, it's not sustainable, because eventually you're gonna be working too much. In the office, Michael Scott starts his own rival paper company, and he goes to the accountant, and the accountant says, I see your prices are the lowest in the area. And Michael Scott says, yeah, it's the one thing that's keeping me in business. And the accountant says, no, it's the one thing that's putting you out of business, because it's not sustainable, because you're having to work 10 times more to make the money you need to survive.
So the office be out there answering our questions.
Yeah, Michael Scott paper company. But that's the thing, you've got to find that balance of your experience, of knowing what to charge, and then when it comes into things like, you've got, like, for us, bills to pay and stuff, you've got to work out the most effective way to give the best attention to each job and getting the money that you're happy with, that reflects your current skill base and equipment, whilst being competitive.
I think linking back with what you've just said there about bills as well, I think one thing you have got to take into consideration when thinking of your cost is your overheads. Like, is the thing you're doing costing you money? Because if it is, then it's obviously going to have to be paid for. Then you're going to have to be profitable as well. Like, you're going to have to make profit. So, for example, our studio now costs us X amount of pounds a month. So that when we do our jobs, we've got to think, right, this is costing us. So if someone wants to come in here and use this facility, it's going to have to cost them, obviously, maybe a little bit more, so that we're getting something out of it as well and being able to maintain as a business and keep afloat. Otherwise, if people were coming in and using our space for less money than what we pay, then obviously you're not making any money, are you? So you're not even covering your bills. So that's another thing to sort of think about as well.
Yeah, what overall cost you're trying to make up per month. Like, if your overheads are £1,000 and you charge £100 per shoot, you've got to do 10 shoots, haven't you?
Yeah.
It's like when we first started, it's a mistake for when we started. We were doing live sessions. We were offering audio and video, full day, and they were like 50 quid. And at the time, we were like, let's get the work in, we'll do 50 quid. And yeah, it did. It allowed us to grow our portfolio and stuff. But let's just say we were trying to get £1,000 that month. You would have to have done 20 live sessions to make that amount.
Which is also hard when you're starting out, because that's also finding 20 clients.
Yeah, exactly. Just because you know the number you need to hit doesn't mean you can just automatically find 20 clients.
Yeah.
Whereas now, our live sessions in here around like the 200, 250 mark, we only need to do one a week to hit £1,000 if that's our quota. So by charging more, we're only working with 4 bands a month instead of 20.
Yeah.
So those 4 bands are getting way more of our attention. The work is way better, and they can go home thinking, right, yeah, I've paid £250 instead of £50, but the quality represents £250.
Yeah, it's worth £250 rather than worth £50.
Yeah. People might feel more hard done by paying 50 quid for a product that isn't worth £50 because we've got 19 other bands to think about. So you've just got to price yourself in that sort of area that you know you're giving everything for it and you're comfortable with your compensation that you're getting for that work. Okay, I've got another difficult question that I get quite a lot of.
What?
And that is, and we'll talk about this from maybe a video rate and an audio rate. I suppose it works both ways. And that is, should you charge hourly or daily?
I've always sort of been more of a day rate, I suppose, but it's even more different for me because I charge per song.
Yeah.
So it's a slightly different way of thinking of things, but I suppose you could break it down to a daily charge, only because it works for me knowing what roughly my day session is, which is say like 8 hours. But at the same time, if you don't put an hourly rate on it, if you don't charge for an hour, charge per hour, a band isn't looking at his clock thinking, oh shit, we've only got like 1 hour left and we've got all this left to do. It just creates stress and a bit of tension in it from my personal experience.
Okay, then I'll rephrase the question. Rather than hourly versus daily, let's do hourly or time-based, hourly or daily versus the actual project. So for me, I'll do it from like an editor's point of view.
Yeah.
So as an editor, should I charge hourly or should I charge for the video? Now, in the past, I have charged for an hourly rate. The problem is that as my experience grows, I'm getting quicker and quicker and quicker as an editor. So the better I get, the less value I'm worth.
Mm-hmm.
If it used to take me 5 hours to do a video at £50 an hour, and then 6 months later, that's only taking me 3 hours for the same video, I'm losing money because I've got better.
Yeah.
So by doing an hourly rate, I'm making my value less. Whereas if I say to you, you want a video, let's just say it's a 60-second teaser video for Facebook. I know that I can probably do that in 4 hours, and I will charge for the video. And I'll say, for this video, it is this much. Now, if I do that in 2 hours, that's fine. If I do it in 10 hours, that's fine. Because your client is prioritizing the overall quality of the video, not how long it may take you.
Yeah, that's sort of my similar stance on say, recording a single. Because I feel like again, like the hourly rate sort of might put people off, or again, like I say, creates a bit of stress and think, right, we need to rush it because we can get it cheaper. If we rush this single, we'll get it cheaper. But ultimately, if you rush, it's not going to be as good. So that's why I like not putting a time restraint on things.
Yeah. So for you, you're saying that we're allowing 2 days in the studio to get this single done.
Mm-hmm.
So that means that the band are prioritizing the quality, and like you said, they're not sat there watching the clock thinking, oh, we've got 6 hours left on day one, and you're being judged on how much time you spend on it. You're being judged on how good the final quality is. I think that's better than... I mean, there are times I have worked as an editor for an hourly rate before, for ease maybe, I don't know, inexperience, whatever, but now I think I just say it's this much for the video.
Yeah. The only thing I can think of where that could create a bit of a problem maybe, which is a question to ask you, is what happens if, say, you're an editor and you've edited the video and the client come back to you and say, I'm not happy, but I want 4 hours worth of revisions. Would you then charge extra for them revisions, or would that be included within your price for the video?
So I can't speak for everyone, but what I do as an editor, so my best example, I do videos for a company called GB Ultras, which is an ultramarathon company. And 6 months ago, we filmed a huge list of like explainer videos, let's just call them. So as our deal with the company is that we will make the video. It costs the same for each video as a flat rate. And then in that cost is 2 revisions. So I say, here's the video. And they say, this is really, really good, but yeah, you've made a mistake here. Can we change this order around? I say, yeah, do it. Send it back. Okay, that's great. Can we just change the title card at the end? Yeah, there you go. That's our 2 revisions done then. And then probably before you start, you say, you've got 2 revisions included in your price. If you want any revisions further than that, it's X amount per edit. Because as an editor as well, you've got to think of, it's organising the footage, it's doing the edit, it's doing the export, it's doing the upload, it's emailing to the delivery. Every revision is that again. Obviously, if you don't specify that you get 2 revisions, you could be there for 100 back and forths. And then that 4 hours it took you to do a video is pushing 20.
Yeah. So from an audio perspective, it's also maybe a little, the way I do it is also sometimes backfired a little bit. Not from my point of view, but for the band, because they've come in saying do it like they've come in, recorded a single, and got sort of like halfway through the second day and think, oh well, we've got to half the day left. Can we record another one dead quick?
Yeah.
And it's like, unfortunately, you've got to in that situation, you've kind of just got to stick to your guns and be like, well, actually, you've paid for a single, you've not paid for the time. So unfortunately, no, just because we've got done a little bit faster than you expected doesn't mean
that's
that
also
we get
when
the extra bit.
That's also when people come in knowing what they're recording. If someone was come in and say, I just want a day of like creativity, working on loads of different songs, maybe at that point they just pay for the day to use the studio as like a creative space.
Yeah.
There might not necessarily be an end goal for that person.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like if they're sitting on like 5 demos, they might just want to come in for a day to play around with those demos and pay for an 8-hour slot for you to sit through and maybe like, work, because there's not like an end product.
I feel like at that point, that's maybe where I'd contemplate on if someone was to come in and utilize me as a producer and bring in demos, wanted to sit with them, do things like go through the tracks, structure, help with songwriting, etc. I think that's maybe where I'd start charging a day rate.
Yeah.
Because obviously, if they're there for the day, like if you charge, say they've got five songs that they've got, and you only get through 3 of them on the first day, obviously you're pricing yourself out a little bit there.
Yeah.
So you got to bear that in mind as well. Like we said earlier, I feel like this whole thing is a big balancing act, and finding what's good for you, what's good for the client, and finding sort of that happy medium between making everyone happy.
Yeah, because what you don't want to do as well is like completely go the opposite way and charge yourself like dead expensive, so that when you, like, because we could charge that, using that situation before, we're trying to hit £1,000, let's just say, we could just charge £1,000 for one live session, but that client would then expect the world, knowing that they could get it for £500, £200, whatever. It's a lot of pressure. So it's like you said, it's finding what's comfortable for you, what you're happy with, and what your client is going to be comfortable with and happy with as well. Knowing that when they get their product delivered, that is that worth the money? Isn't really a factor. It's just that's just what it cost. So that's obviously our experience of things. What we've just spoke about might not be right for everyone. I think pricing, and like we said before, charging someone for your work, it is really hard, and there's always that sort of like imposter syndrome feeling of, are you even good enough to charge? I think the best advice is just to get out there and work and figure out what works for you, and you probably will make mistakes like we definitely have, and you'll learn how to value your own work and how to value yourself. So Joe and I have put together sort of 9 points of that we think are the best ways on how to price your work, basically, as a freelancer, as a business owner, as a creative person. And this is just, again, all from our perspective and all from how we feel. So do you want to start?
Yeah, so I think step 1 is understanding your costs. And by this I mean sort of calculating the costs associated with what you are doing. So maybe that's overheads, materials, and then also your labour of actually doing the work.
Yeah, so you know that for every, again, just use an example, for every photo shoot you're going to do, it's going to cost you 50 quid.
Yeah.
So that's like your baseline of your costs.
It's something that you have to make.
Yeah, before you're breaking
even.
Yeah. Okay, number 2 is researching your market. So we touched on this before. So making sure you understand your competitors' pricing and figuring out where you sit in the market and comparing the quality, target audience, and the benchmark of what you want to hit and where you sit within that market, within your area. So for us, Warrington, recording studio, production studio, finding out how we fit into that market.
Yeah. So semi-link into that is step 3. Point 3, which is identifying your unique value proposition, which is sort of it's what sets you apart from your competition, basically. So,
yeah. So your USP, isn't it?
Yeah. So what sells you? What sells your product? Say, let's just say, more than what your competitor sells theirs.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. So our USP, I think, is that we can offer more than one thing.
Yeah.
So
it's a one-stop shop. Yeah.
So we can offer recording, music videos, photos, a larger package. I think that's what sets us apart. So that's where we sit within the market in terms of what our USP is.
Another thing is, say if you record in at Abbey Road, who have 7 studios, and the mixing engineer's got 23 bands that he's all got to mix. His turnaround time on his mixing of songs could be like months. He could be waiting for a mix for months. So as a mixing engineer, I like to get my stuff delivered in nice fast time. So that's something that I offer that they're not going to offer. So there's my unique selling point over Abbey Road. Yeah.
Yeah. So finding your unique selling point as a business and understanding that you know it and that you maybe it's part of your when you're sort of in that, what do you call it, like sorting out the discussion of I'm going to work for you. This is what I can offer you because it's my unique selling point. If you work with me for mixing, your turnaround time will be within 30 days.
Yeah.
Okay, number 4, I've not touched on this yet, it's like to determine your target customer. So to work out who you are selling to.
Yeah, because obviously a demographic is a big one. So you're not going to go to a college band and say we charge £800 for a song, because that is just not going to happen, is it? Like, obviously students aren't going to want to pay that much. for something. So it's all about sort of figuring out what sort of client you are looking at.
Yeah. So for us, it's bands and artists, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
We're not going to go into a college class and sell to maths class.
Yeah, exactly.
Knowing who you're selling to, because you don't want to waste your breath selling to the wrong people, really.
So point 5 is considering your profit margins, which is kind of similar to an earlier one. However, this is all about determining your desired profit margins, and they should cover costs, provide a reasonable profit for your business.
Yeah, so it's basically saying after point 1 was obviously to work out your overheads. I think we said a photo shoot would cost you £50. So if you're charging £100, you've worked out that per photo shoot your profit is £50.
Yeah.
If you wanted to make £100 per show, you'd have to charge £150, because it's basically your cost minus your expenses is your profit, isn't it, really? So working out how much do you want to make. So number six is to evaluate and adjust your cost. So as a business, I think we're sort of constantly evolving and changing. Our price from 2 years ago doesn't fit where we're at now. Both experience, gear, just everything. Your pricing has to evolve and change with your business. That might mean lower, that might mean higher, but it has to constantly be moving. You have to constantly be watching the market. You have to constantly be looking at your equipment, your surroundings, and what you have to offer. And I think if you just don't constantly think about your prices, they'll probably become stale, and you'll sort of not be moving with the sort of times.
I suppose it always goes back to that idea of supply and demand as well, doesn't it? Like, obviously, if the demand is high, then you can get away with charging a little bit more as well.
Yeah, you go off your customer feedback as well. Like, you might work with people and they might say, "Oh, tell you what, like our live sessions, people have said to us that's really good value for money," and it's got to the point where we thought, okay, well, maybe not we can charge more, maybe we should be charging more. That profit margin that we talked about before, maybe that's not high enough. We can make a little bit more money from them, and we should, because what we're offering is of good value and people are getting more for their money, which is a good thing. You want your customers to get good value for the money.
Yep.
But at the same time, you want to make sure that you're giving yourself a good stead for your business, really.
Mm-hmm.
And how well the work's doing, how well the videos are performing for someone, how well your work is performing. If your feedback is really, really good, you're getting more and more work. You're going to have to say no to people because you've got so much work. At that point, you can maybe look at increasing your prices.
Yep. So point 7 is communicating your pricing clearly with your client. So highlighting the value that your said client will receive for the price is quite important. Like you say, like if they're going to receive a video that's going to perform well through past experience of past clients, then obviously communicating that with your client from day one, they know what they're getting for their money.
Yeah.
So obviously, if you're going to charge X amount, they're not going to turn their nose up at it because they know exactly what they're going to get from that.
Yeah, I think it's really good to have good communication as well, because it should be set out from day one of what that price includes. Like you were saying before, if a band finish with a few hours left on day 2, they know that they paid for the single and have not paid for the time. So that awkward conversation of I'm sorry, but what you've paid for doesn't include that. Or like we're talking about the revisions, clearly it's sort of set up so that we know that if you need revisions, you get 2. If you need more, it costs this much. It saves awkward conversations down the line where, oh, I thought I got this in the price, or, oh, well, shouldn't you be doing this within the costs and stuff? It saves any potential, not arguments, but
grey areas, really, isn't it? Like within sort of if
disagreements. It stops the need for any, oh, I thought I got this in the price, or does it not include this? It should be set out from day one. This is what it costs. This is what you get.
Done. Bish, bash, bosh.
Done. Is it my turn?
It is. Final point. Oh, no, it's not.
No, it's not. 2 more.
Got 2 more.
Okay, so number 8 is to offer pricing tiers if applicable. So this is sort of, I agree with the point and I don't, because you should be able to say this is what it costs, but some people obviously have different budgets, and what it's good to do is to be able to set yourself at each point of their budget. So let's say somebody has a budget of between £400 and £1,000. You can say, okay, so for £400, this is what we can do for you. It includes this, this, and this. You're communicating it, and then they can go away knowing that that's what they're going to get. If you want to go to the middle of your budget at £600, this is what we can offer you, and it'll include this. And if you want to go to the higher end of your budget, it'll be £1,000, this is what it would include. So a £400 music video might include one location and a performance style music video. Whereas a £1,000 budget, you can include 4 different locations, and there's a bit of a narrative as well. And then it's up to the customer then to then decide where they want to put themselves in your pricing tier. But then also at times for someone like you as a producer, as a single, it just does cost this.
Yeah, that's where the if applicable comes in. I think like for a single, you should have something like that, like a set service. You should have a set price. But for things that have scope for more, shall we say. So say if someone comes in, for example, audio wise, saying they want an EP. I've got X amount of tracks, and I've got this budget of a £500.
Yeah,
Just obviously on the lower end. You're gonna have to obviously linking in again with point 7 is communicating that realistically that's not where we're at. So this is what you can get for this price. If you wanted to go up more, same with the music video you've just explained. This is what you can get, and then if you want to go further up into into beyond your budget, then this is what you can achieve.
Yeah, I think that point 7 is really, really strong. Like communicate, because from day one, there's no better policy than being honest. Is there really?
Yeah.
People know what they're getting for the money, and money. Like we said at the start, this is a weird topic. It's quite an uncomfortable topic. People want to get good value. A lot of the times, you're working with people who are working to budgets. People only have so much to spend, so it's just about making sure that the back and forth is there, really, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. So the final point is point 9, and that is to test discounts and promotions. So it's all about using sort of these ways to strategically attract new customers or sort of incentivize even, if I can just put my teeth in, repeat business. So repeat business is that one thing where it is vital for a business, in my opinion. Like we've spoke about in the past, that repeat business is really important. So maybe getting a client through the door in the means of applying a discount onto their first session, and then saying, but you on the next ones you get this. It's kind of a similar one about you said about working for free, but only you're monetizing that sort of whole technique.
Yeah, it's just offering an incentive to come and work with us. So, like we said about this studio, I think when you come in the studio, it's really nice to see. And we've always said that getting a band in the door, it's easier to then work with them on future projects.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, in the past, our live sessions, as a business, our USP, like we said, is that we can offer everything. Our live sessions encapsulates that because it shows our audio side and it shows our video side. So in the past, we've often offered promotions and discounts to our live sessions because it shows off both sides of the business. It shows what a music video could look like, and it also shows what a single could look like in its quickest and easiest form for us to put together. So we offer promotions and discounts. They come in, they see the live session in hopes that will then either lead to maybe a music video, or they'll come in and do a full single in the studio. And it's just a nice way of getting to work with people for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
You got to be careful. Obviously, you can't be like, oh, the discount is you get this, and this, and this, and this, and then by the time of it, you've created yourself tons of work for less money.
Yeah.
But if you use them strategically, I think they're a really good way of meeting new clients and getting more work.
Yep.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So that was our 9 points. It's a bit annoying that we didn't do 10.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Thinking hat ran out at 9.
You have to think of your own. But yeah, I mean, that's quite a difficult topic, I think. And we've learned loads and we are still very much learning.
Very much so.
And I know you really don't like talking about money, do you?
Nope. I hate it.
What is it? Is it the awkwardness of money?
It's not even that. It's just that I feel like I still don't have all of the answers.
Yeah. I think this podcast, though, we have literally said this from day one on this podcast, like, this podcast isn't about us saying, this is what you should do.
Yeah.
It's more of us saying, this is what we've done and how we've slipped up and maybe how we're thinking right now.
Yeah.
People might watch this and be like, in a year's time, they're going to really disagree with themselves.
Yeah. But I suppose if you're out there in a situation where you are sort of at that weird point of putting a price on, like hearing it coming from us who have been doing this for 4 years, and hearing me still saying that I still don't really know. I still don't know the answers. Should obviously maybe try and put you at ease a little bit.
I think it's any industry though, isn't it? Like if you're working for yourself, you're putting a value on your head, which is like really scary, I think.
Yeah.
Because how many times have we had a conversation with someone and they've said, "Oh, so okay, that sounds great. Like, how much will it cost?" And you're like, £500. I'm like, okay, that's sound. You're like, okay, great. Like, I'm happy with that. Like, I value myself for that much. But the awkwardness of saying, "Oh, it's £500," and someone going, oh, I was thinking like £100. It's really awkward.
Yeah.
Like, it's really difficult.
I think I've got better at dealing with them sort of situations. I am confident in myself now with my service, but it's just never a nice one, is it?
Yeah.
It's never a nice one.
How do you feel about like lowering your prices? Like, say I'm quite bad for this and you actually often make me stick to my guns a little bit more. So for example, like our music videos are like £400-500, but if somebody said, I've only really got £250 for a music video, in the past I've been like, okay, like we'll make it work. And I'll make sure I'll make sure they get less, but their price will reflect what their budget allows. But how do you feel about like dropping your prices and changing your prices? I suppose it links to one of those points of being flexible and evolving.
I don't really like doing it, because if I've come up with a number that I'm comfortable with charging, then I feel like that shouldn't be tampered with. I feel like people will be, if people aren't happy paying that and valuing your time enough to pay your price, then I personally don't feel like it'd be worth working with them for.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
One thing I've learned as well, and this is like absolutely true, people are happier when they are paying more.
Yeah.
We've had jobs where people have paid £700-800 for a video project that are happier than people who have paid £100, because I think they value, it's a better respect both ways. You're working better because you're getting paid for how you feel you value yourself. That's a good amount of money for you. They're happy with what they're getting back, and it's a healthy relationship with both people happy with the amount. And I don't know what the science is behind it, but people are just happy. I'm not, obviously there's a limit. I'm not saying people want to go and pay £1 million, but when people know what the project is they're paying for and they know that both sides are happy with the cost, the project always comes out better.
Yeah, it just runs smoother. It's the mutual respect, isn't it, I think, between sort of clients and service giver.
Service giver. I don't really know what it is. It just seems to work better. People have that money there to spend on a project. The project is less corners cut, because if you only got £100 budget, you're cutting corners, and someone might say, oh well, how come that's not in it? And it's unfortunately it comes down to money. Whereas the person who's paying more, everything they wanted comes within their bigger budget, so it's a happier outcome, and then at the same time, you as the service giver are also being compensated what you feel like is more fairly. Tricky topic, and we'll learn.
And on that note, I am charging now £8,000
$1
per
billion.
But yeah.
Okay, cool. There's a little bit of a different one, really. A bit more of a deep dive into something specific.
Yeah.
Because I think quite a lot of these podcasts have been fairly broad.
It's deep, that, bro.
Deep that.
Deep.
Yeah.
But thank you all for listening again. Thanks for tuning in. We're not a radio station.
I know you always say that.
I do, yeah. I feel like it's a bit of a radio setup.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I just need
I'm looking over at you. I feel like
dress.
I just need to like do that, like run the VT or something. Maybe we should incorporate VTs.
Yeah, we could put a TV there.
Yeah, we could, couldn't we?
Yeah.
Right. Comment if you think we should include VTs.
If anyone's got any questions about this or anything else that you want us to talk about on future podcasts, let us know.
Slide into our DMs.
Drop a comment. Let us know if you agree with any of our points. Let us know if you disagree with any of our points. This is all a discussion, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's all a back and forth. It's all a discussion. We want to grow and learn and help other people. And yeah.
If you've got anything to advise us,
Yeah. If you've been running your business for 20 years and you think, bloody hell, you're doing something wrong.
Hopefully that won't be the case.
That won't be the case, yeah. Right. Thank you very much.
Let's wrap it.
Ta-ra.